Hello, I hope you're doing fine. I'm Milad Kambari, and welcome to another Corona Renderer tutorial. In this part, I'll review the new update of Corona 13 and what parameters were added to it. As expected, the info released during the launch of Corona 13 had some key points, but it felt more like media hype than a big leap. That's not just my view. Many YouTubers said it. Corona really pushed this version and claimed some amazing things were coming in it. But it's safe to say that it still hasn't reached a truly revolutionary update yet. I'll talk more about this as we go along through the rest of this session. Let's begin with the Corona AI Enhance feature. This feature was newly introduced in Corona version 13. Basically, what Enhance does is upgrade the image quality. It improves the overall quality of your final, like fixing some areas on human faces or glow effects using AI tools automatically. So the final image looks more realistic. To understand this feature better and show its power in Corona, I set up this shot with a human model and glowing parts in the scene. So I made sure the scene had depth, a model, and some glow effects too. Okay, now let's see how we can apply Corona Enhance on our renders together. First thing we do is go to the render elements. Then we add the Corona AI render element to the list. We apply it to our render passes and make sure it's added properly. Once it's added, you'll see a Corona AI Enhancer button show up on the UI. Of course, there are some other steps you'll see later in the process. When I click that button, a new window opens on the Collaborate tab. That Collaborate tab won't work for people using cracked versions of Corona because they can't access that section. It's directly connected to Corona's official cloud servers online. Once the render is prepared, we move on to the enhance process. We send the render to the system so it can process and enhance it remotely. Or simply put, we submit the render for enhancement. Don't forget one important thing. Corona AI Enhance only works with final rendered images. So if you're using interactive rendering mode, it won't work on any interactive light passes, for example. Here, as you see, I have a completely black frame. I'll click the Corona AI button one more time. Let me show you something with this setup. Just wait, I'll display the project for you. Now compare these two frames together. They look the same, but one is interactive and the other is final. Its scene is off. There's no lighting at all. So yeah, it's supposed to be completely, but clearly nothing has happened to the frame. It's still the basic bright image from the beauty pass. So anything enhanced will affect must be in the beauty render only. So now I click the button again and the file starts uploading now. Then it's uploaded to Chaos cloud servers. It connects to Chaos directly and gets stored there on Corona's cloud server. Okay, now all I need to do is click on the render image shown here. Just one click. Then I click the enhance button. When I click on enhance, it starts the enhancing process for the image. Now we wait for it to finish. While it's enhancing, let me add something. I'll make a new tutorial for you later. That shows the difference between Corona Enhance and a website that does more advanced enhancement techniques and gives better quality results. I'll explain that in another training session, and I'll make sure to add the link for you. The enhance process is now finished, and you can clearly see the face is more realistic. Now you can compare the images easily between the first render and the enhanced one. That's the difference, as you can see right here. The tree trunk now looks much clearer, and the tree leaves also render better. This is my older render and the new one. Look at the human skin, shadows, and clothing. If you check close, the image quality is far more acceptable, and it gives us much better detail overall. Now let's move on to Corona Scatter. Corona Scatter has a new added feature. It's called clusters. Clusters allow us to manage more easily how plant models are spread around the scene. It gives us better control for distribution purposes. And we can set up rules for scattering easily, like which model shows up more. Now for this feature, there are several scattering modes available, each with different logic. One of them simply says, I'll scatter based on X and Y directions, which means distributing across the flat ground area, or the UV space mode. That lets us use a texture map. And we apply a UV texture and similar setup. It asks how you'd like it scattered. You can choose based on the X and Y axes if you want. For example, you can change its rotation. As you see, I'm changing the rotation value. If you look carefully, it's rotated 90 degrees, or we can talk about moving it using offset. When you change the offset, the whole placement shifts a bit accordingly. So the object location will be changed. Basically, all these steps help us make the scattering pattern look more believable. Roughness adds some randomness around the edges. It distorts the cluster's border and makes them messier, which makes things more organic. Next is the edge blend option. Edge blend softens the border a bit. It allows the edge of the cluster to rise up slightly, so the cluster edge gets lifted and looks smoother. If you look closely, you'll see that the border is now less sharp and more blended. The whole thing becomes much softer, especially on grassy terrains like our example here. This makes the result feel more realistic overall. The diversity setting, if you raise the value, the cluster border becomes less distinct, and the surroundings get mixed in more clearly. If you set it to 100, clusters are totally ignored. But if you set it to 0, it's using clusters 100%. Now if I set the number here to 50, that gives us a nice middle ground to test with. If you look closely, fewer flowers are used on the edge, and the middle part shows more flowers overall. That means where clusters are defined, they are clearly visible, and as you increase or lower the number again, the intensity and usage of clusters will vary accordingly. This next part is really powerful. It's called instance color. We apply a black and white checker texture to it. Then we tell it to scatter based on that checker texture. So plants follow the texture's layout, but no color has been defined yet. So we go to instance color settings and assign color values manually. Since our texture is black and white, we need to pick 2 colors matching black and white logic. Let's pick model number 1 and assign it to sit on the black checker part. Then place model 2 to appear in the white checker parts. Don't forget if your texture is colored. Then its color range will be detected too. Right now, our texture is not a colored one. It's just black and white, so it's only detecting based on grayscale values. Next, we assign black again, and finally we assign white to the other model. Now let's check the result of these settings. If we take a closer look, you'll see in the white areas, the white flowers were correctly placed. And in the black areas, no flowers were scattered there. Not even grass models. So this clearly creates a distinction. Now I added a better texture to help you see the difference. Next cool feature is the paint section. Paint lets you manually define placement zones. You decide exactly where the plant models should go. Just click paint. And nothing shows up at first. Nothing is painted yet. The first step we need to take is define a base. You must assign a base flower model. Let's say we pick these grass patches as the base. We choose both of these grass models and assign them as base layer. Now from here on, anything we add becomes a new layer. I click new layer here. On this next layer, I'll select these 2 flower models here. Wait, let me check and see what their names were. All right, 2, 3. Here I'll choose, and then we'll assign 1 more model. All right, let's go with model 3 here. We'll skip the others now. We don't need to add more. Let's just these 2 for this part. Then I select the paint command and begin painting on the scene. It's too big, that'll help us control it better. Now I reselect the paint command and start drawing in the viewport. Just like I'll increase the brush radius a little bit. Okay, that's too much now. Let me reduce the brush radius again. This part is basically the brush size setting. Now, when I stop painting, the flower from our selected layer will be drawn on screen. That same flower model shows up so it's that exact flower that's being scattered here. Now I added 1 flower just to demo, for more clarity and explanation, but you can always replace it with any other model you like later. You can even assign multiple flowers in the same layer 1 and have them all used. Next is the Corona Toon map. It might not be used very often. It has a cartoonish and playful vibe, more of a fantasy look and feel. That's the Corona Toon. You might only use it in specific projects. Especially, it adds this cool little effect, kind of a cartoon look, a stylized feel to your models. Now, how do we actually create this effect? To make this effect possible, we need to use 2 different materials. One is the toon material. The other one is the outline material. So the first thing, I'll load the Corona Toon material in and assign it as the base for the scene. No real settings need changing. You can mostly leave it default. Then I'll drag this material into the scene-wide override slot so you can see how it affects everything and understand why we need out and where exactly they make a difference. Oh, now, as you can see, it didn't create any major effect, and it wasn't that visible either. Right, that's because it doesn't show well alone. You need to apply an additional step, something to boost the look. For example, in parts of your scene, You might want that stylized appearance. To enhance that look, I'll now add Corona outline to this. So I open Corona outline. Inside that, under Corona outline material, I drop this material into its base color slot. So it acts as the base. And now we can play with different outline settings. For example, outline thickness. We can adjust it with a factor. Let's keep it in pixels for now. And then apply this Corona outline as the scene-wide override. We'll assign it to the override. Let's wait just a second. You'll see now around the scene edges, black outlines have appeared. We don't have much control though on which lines should be thicker or thinner unless we use separate materials for each. But for a global result, this is how the outline looks. Now if you want, you can apply different outline values, different factors to test various thickness options. So you'll see multiple line weights appear across your render. One of the coolest features recently added to Corona, though it actually came in version 12. Had some bugs back then, but those bugs are now fixed. And in version 13, it works perfectly. I'm talking about the link between Corona and Unreal. It's incredibly powerful. You just press the link button. That links Corona to Vantage instantly. Click it and it sends the scene fast. Your scene loads right into... It opens the Vantage window. Then you can explore your Vantage scene freely. Interact any way you make any scene changes you want on the fly. But keep this in mind, Vantage itself has its own workflow, even though you can adjust your Corona lights and see results. Those same light edits show in Vantage. All those controls are there too. All the same features exist. You can adjust them and they all carry over fully. When linking, it asks where you want edits done. Choose your preferred method. For example, if you want to adjust light strength, you decide where that change happens. Do it in Corona or do it in Vantage. It's completely your call either way. Nearly all key scene parameters can be tweaked directly from Vantage. So we can use Vantage tools easily, like increasing or reducing our scene light burn and intensity. Like here, let's open it and lower the scene highlight values. As you can see, it adjusts the light burn on screen. You can increase exposure directly too. And raise contrast while you're at it. All in real-time preview. That's one of the best things about Vantage. It's very smooth. And because it runs on GPU, you can animate scenes fast. You can easily create animations and take what you built in Corona and render that in Vantage quickly, whatever you make. You can export the animated version right here. It's super fast and clean. Another awesome feature recently added to Corona, or rather to Chaos Cosmos, is the support for alternatives. Models now support alternatives like if you pick one model here, look closely. You'll notice that same model comes with outfit and various color and style options. This gets really fun when we move into foliage mode because then it ties into seasonal changes. You can literally assign seasons to it. Like if I open foliage models here, you'll see all the variations available. Different versions for each plant type. Just check it out. There are multiple alternatives listed for them. Each model comes with optional forms. It could be for seasons, or amount of leaves, or more blue. Flower density and color might vary as well. Shape and structure change slightly. Maybe color tone shifts a little too. And all of that flexibility gives you real creative power. You get higher control over your scene. Since foliage models are usually heavy, one smart feature is they load as proxy. And that's a great optimization feature. They're heavy models, but come straight in as Corona proxies. So like a tree model, for instance, it shows up pre-proxied. That's automatic. And it's extremely useful. You don't need to convert them yourself. Just drag them straight from Cosmos. Download, drag, and done. Drop it into Corona, and Corona handles the rest automatically. It's super efficient now. It's been refined to work, and it loads directly as a clean proxy. This system, the proxy setup, is very powerful for us. So that wraps up our overview of Corona 13. I tried to focus mostly on the practical and useful tools, the ones that really matter for your work. There are also a few smaller features, but the ones I covered in this session and included in this tutorial are the key updates that you're most likely going to need, and you'll probably use them often. I hope this tutorial I shared today and everything I discussed will turn out to be useful for you.